You've prepared your home well. You've hired a real estate agent to represent you, and together you've decided on the perfect asking price for your home. Your agent has listed it in the MLS, and you've had a bunch of showings. People have come and looked at your home. Now comes one of the most exciting parts of selling a property: receiving and evaluating offers and working hard to make it all the way to the closing table. Because this is a really exciting part of the process, it's also a very emotional period. It's important to remember this is a business transaction at this point, and as best as you can, to set those emotions aside and approach this as dispassionately as you really can. If you don't do that, you're more likely to make mistakes that could cost you money in the long run. You may choose the wrong offer or blow up your whole transaction for something that's really not very important, and then have to put your home back on the market. The first step is obviously receiving those offers. And a lot of times we'll put a home on the market on a Thursday evening. Showings will happen Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, and we'll get offers on Monday and Tuesday. That's in an ideal market. It may take longer in a slower market, but we get a bunch of offers in, and maybe we have one or two, or maybe we have 12 or 13 or 14 or 15, right? So we have to decide which offer is the best one. How do we do that? There's a bunch of different criteria, and it's not always the offer that is for the most amount of money that's the best offer. We want to choose the offer that's most likely to make it to the closing table. So one of the criteria we use is which one has the most contingencies, which offer gives the buyer the most outs, the most chances to terminate the contract, right? So one of those is if a buyer has a house to sell before they'll buy yours. That's called a contingency. The offer is contingent upon the buyer selling their home. Another common contingency, if a buyer's getting a loan, they have a loan contingency. And in Colorado, buyers can terminate a contract based on their sole subjective opinion of a loan. So if a buyer's getting a loan and they don't like the monthly payment, they can terminate the contract. So a contract with no loan contingency and no I've got to sell a house contingency is better than one with those contingencies. One without those contingencies is more likely to make it all the way to closing. So all things being equal, you would probably choose that offer. Your agent is experienced, I hope, and can help you look at all the pros and cons of each offer and help you determine which one meets your needs, which one's going to close when you want to close, which one nets you the most money, and which one is most likely to close. So you choose an offer, and then it's time to relax, right? No, there's more negotiations that happen, and buyers really expect to negotiate with you even after you've accepted their contract. Really, the biggest place they'll negotiate with you is after the inspection. That normally occurs within a week of closing or so, and an inspector will come in and they will find problems with the lovely place you've called home for many years. Don't take it personally. Every home has issues. Even brand new homes have issues. We hope that buyers don't come back to you with a laundry list of really unimportant things that they want you to fix in order to close on the sale of your home. Sometimes buyers will do that. Most more rational buyers will pick important issues, and those are things like issues with the roof, the heating and air conditioning, pipes. They'll do a sewer scope and look at that pipe from your house out to the city, things like that. Hot water heaters, structural issues. Those important issues is what they'll negotiate on. And so in Colorado, we call it an inspection objection and an inspection resolution. The buyers will submit their objection, and then we'll negotiate. They may say, we want you to fix this, this, and this in order to close. We can say, yes, you'll do that as the seller. No, you won't do that. Or maybe you'll do something else. Maybe you'll give them a concession at closing, so you'll give them cash back out of your proceeds, basically. Or you'll do some of those things and won't do others. Again, this is where an experienced agent really comes in and helps you decide what's realistic. There's a bunch of negotiations that go on there, and this is frequently where transactions fall apart. And it can be because the seller gets very emotional at this point. It's important to avoid the attitude of, I've got to be right. And I'm personally familiar with it. But I've heard people say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And in this case, I think that's really important. You may be right, and the buyer may be nitpicking you. And if you decide, I'm not going to do anything, this buyer's being irrational, let them walk away. You should understand that if you put your home back on the market after an inspection has occurred, one, you have an obligation to disclose in Colorado anything you know about the property that could affect someone's decision to buy it. New information could have come to you during the inspection, and if you haven't disclosed that previously, you're going to have to. For example, if there is a problem with the sewer line, you're going to have to disclose that now to the next buyer. Also, your home can look a little bit stigmatized if it's gone off the market and come back on after an inspection issue. So you'll end up most likely with a lower price if you go back on the market. I've actually seen transactions terminate based on a microwave oven. And it's generally because people want to be right. They get to a point where they feel taken advantage of and they're finished. They just are done negotiating and they're not going to talk anymore. And somebody's probably being ridiculous, the buyer or the seller, and they're just done. And our job as real estate agents is to kind of serve as a buffer between the buyer and seller and take those emotional hits and help you kind of get centered again. It's important to remember that the buyer is just a human being, just like you, and they want the best deal possible, just like you do. It's not always possible to have a win-win situation, but if that's kind of your goal, you'll do much, much better than someone whose attitude is, I've always got to be right, and I don't care what the other person says. I know this is kind of tough. It really is an emotional period. I've lived through it many, many times with many, many clients on the buyer side and the seller side. And it's not always possible just to say, I'm going to put my emotions aside. But do that as best you can, and you'll do much better than someone who's kind of an emotional wreck during this process. So we negotiate around the inspection, and then we have some other deadlines, but that's a big one where transactions often fall apart. Then we work toward the closing, and at the closing, we all sign our documents and you walk away with what you've been wanting, the profits from your sale. So always keep that closing in mind. We have a guide that can help you understand kind of evaluating offers and the movement from receiving and evaluating offers toward the closing. Download that guide now, take a look at it. If you have questions, contact me anytime. My contact information is in the guide. My name is Tom Grant, and I'm a real estate agent with the principal team at Metro Brokers. Thanks for watching.